Senior staff of the hospital, Elvis Ekwamwa, said numerous letters written to authorities to address the issue have yielded no positive results, hence their decision to embark on the sit-down strike.
Staff of the hospital will start a sit-down strike from Monday, July 10, 2017, and then we follow it with a halt of the operations of the hospital on Wednesday, July 12, 2017, and hit the streets if no action has been taken to address the situation, and continue to stay away from the hospital until we have seen a resolution to this problem.
The workers expressed concerns about the rapid degradation of the land at the frontage of the hospital and development of permanent structures for residents and business purposes at the cost of security for both staff and patients of the hospital. Local chairperson of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Winfred Piasa, emphasized that they are fed up with excuses.
There's been a whole lot of correspondence from management to their places. We've also been to management. Anytime we find such issue, we walk to management, and we've organized series of demonstrations on this. The recent one was, I think, last 2 months or so, but still nothing has been done about it.
They are worried about the recent upsurge of theft and attacks on staff en route to and from work. And the MP for Namdam, Dr. Mark Ket Nawani, wants government to commit more resources to ensure an uninterrupted implementation of the family planning program. He made the statement on the floor ahead of World Population Day, which falls on Monday, July 11.
Family planning is prioritized as a key strategy for addressing critical socio-economic issues in the country. Available statistics indicate a sluggish performance in the family planning programming. The use of oral contraceptives almost doubled from 13% to 22% between 1988 and 2014. However, contraceptive prevalence rate fluctuated from 19% in 2003, decreasing to 17% in 2008, and increasing to 22% in 2014. Presenting a statement on the World Population Day on Monday, July 11, member for Nabdam, Dr. Mark Ket Nawani, was concerned at the rate of progress.
Since faith, religious beliefs, and cultural practices also influence family planning, we need to explore culturally sensitive approaches for the different populations.
He wants government to commit more resources to ensure uninterrupted implementation of the family planning program.
Our country, Ghana, needs an integrated and coordinated family planning program, starting with a critical assessment of the strategies that work, setting of realistic targets to facilitate the effective implementation of the family planning program to achieve an increase in contraceptive prevalence rate.
Other members contributed to the statement.
There was a recent TV news, TV3, on one Togbe Asilenu from the Eastern region who has over 100 children. And at 80, he is still planning to have more. This is the perceptions that we have that is making family planning very, very difficult as a nation.
I would therefore encourage that we as a government will set aside a sizable amount of money to ensure that we educate our women to exercise family planning.
In another statement, members called on the government to explore Ghana's bauxite reserves and invest the proceeds into providing meaningful employment for the youth.
The underutilization of our resources can be cited as one of the causes of unemployment.
The problem is cheap power. If we can make that decision and all accept that the need to create jobs, create a quantum leap in industrialization is so critical that we must dedicate our hydro to vacuum Mr. Speaker, that will be a key.
Manager at the Osu Children's Home, Christiana Adu, says payment of high utility tariffs is taking a toll on the effective management of the home. She is therefore appealing for the installation of a solar panel.
Playgrounds play an essential role in the social, emotional, cognitive and physical well-being of children right from the stage of early childhood. It is also a natural tool for children to develop resilience as they learn to cooperate, overcome challenges and negotiate with others. The Osu Children's Home currently caters for 159 children. This is the state of the home's playground, which was constructed in 2006. Half of the fence built around the playground to protect the children has broken down. The outdoor play system and the climber play set leaves little to be desired. Most of the swings are either rusted or left with no seats. However, the children seem content with what they have. Christiana Ado is the manager at the Osu Children's Home.
Children learn through play, so it's a very, very important aspect of the home. The play materials are worn out, and as such we'll be very, very happy if we'll get support.
Apart from government support, the home runs on the benevolence of corporate organizations. However, it is still saddled with high utility tariffs. This, the manager says, is affecting effective management of the home.
An institution like this, we yearn to have solar panel in place of the electricity, so that at least when we're sleeping, we can sleep in peace.
An alumni of the Takoradi Technical University have donated assorted items to the Osu Children's Home as part of the group's second anniversary celebrations. Akosia Da Costa Vroom is the spokesperson of the group.
They are part of us. We can't say they are not, because as much as we live in our homes and we are comfortable, they also need comforts. Even if we give to them and it is not enough, the little is better than none. Very much. Thank you very much.
The Ghana Cocoa Board, has announced that there will be no charge in the producer of cocoa for the 2016-2017 and 2017-2018 cocoa season, despite commodity price dropped on the world market. Cocoa prices have dropped from $2,900 to an average of $1,900, recording a market price volatility of between $2,100 and $1,800 per ton. Cocoa Board has been holding discussions with farmers' representatives from all 6 cocoa producing regions at a meeting in Kumasi. The meeting was to educate the farmers on new policies in the cocoa industry, implementation of the fertilizer subsidiary program, and pricing of cocoa beans. Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahene Edu, said the current producer price has been pegged at 7,600 cedis on the basis of last year's average free on board per ton of cocoa sold at $2,900. He explained the drop has been driven by oversupply of the commodity from Ivory Coast, coupled with a fall in demand. There were concerns the increase in production by Ivory Coast to 1.6 million metric tons would worsen the existing problem as the country prepares to raise its production levels.
We are here to meet with the farmers and then decide whether retain or increase the price. It is important to note that in Ghana we have the minimum guaranteed price for farmers. You know, in our history, always when the international price is going down, we tend to retain the existing price.
The CEO also pointed out the Cocoa Stabilization Fund has accrued only 320 million cedis, but Ghana may need 2 billion cedis to purchase cocoa from the cocoa farmers from 1st October this year. On the fertilizer subsidiary program, the Cocoa Board CEO expressed hope the new arrangement would have positive impact on production.
Now we are placing a price of it, but a subsidized price. Therefore, government is taking 53%. then the farmers are paying 80 Ghana cedis per bag. That is the new policy. And then we've also explained to the farmers that, as a way to sort of mitigate all these difficulties, we have to bring in policies that will enhance productivity.
Chief Cocoa Farmer for the Western North Region, Nana Nicholas Kobena, reiterated farmers' commitment to supply any good initiative of the government to transform the cocoa sector.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture, William Ejapon Koitu, has reiterated government's commitment to support cocoa farmers acquire the requisite skills to cultivate cocoa. He was speaking at a stakeholders workshop to consider a new policy on cocoa inputs in Accra.
From a peak of 1 million tons achieved at the start of the decade, Ghana's annual cocoa production has declined to barely 800,000 metric tons and sometimes less in subsequent crop seasons. To modernize the sector and sustain the industry's future, government has announced new input policy which will result in stopping its free offering of fertilizers, fungicides and insecticides to farmers. It said offering the inputs free to a section of farmers while depriving others access to the same inputs has not yielded the desired results and therefore unsustainable. According to the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, William Ejapon Koitu, it is time for cocoa farmers to operate their farms as sustainable business operations.
The cocoa farmer must understand that the businessman on the street who employs every means, including adverts and everything, finances his businesses on his own. So the farmer must also realize that what he's doing is a business. As long as the government is not able to buy the required quantities of fertilizer to meet all the needs of the farmers, there will be some kind of favoritism.
He enumerated a number of interventions government has put in place to help farmers.
One of them is to form the farmers into associations and then give them managerial skills training so that they can behave and act as businessmen, so they can go to the bank with their cocoa farms as the security, okay, to access loans.
The Dutch ambassador to Ghana, Ron Stricker, said the Dutch government will assist in implementing the policy by helping farmers have access to credit.
We like to add an element that makes sure that farmers get easier access to finance. And that is, I think, very important because the banks do not want to lend to farmers. And lack of money, lack of loans is a big problem, I think, for the sustainability of the sector.
In other news, the era of tidal wave destruction at Cliffy in the Blakema South constituency is now a thing of the past. This follows the construction of a sea defense wall along the coastal line of the community.
52-year-old Nyokai and his family have lived at Glefe for the past 12 years. The father of 8 recounts how he has lost part of his building and personal belongings to the havoc caused by tidal waves in the past.
12 years,
I lost 3 of my buildings due to the havoc caused by the tidal waves, but ever since the construction of the sea defense wall, we are now safe.
Now I feel that 1 year, 6 months, we're safe.
Glefe in the Accra metropolis is one of the areas which faces severe flooding anytime it rains. The obvious reason for the perennial flooding in the area is associated to the haphazard building of houses. The evidence of the tidal waves in past times are still visible. Seawater had eroded the surface land and appeared to have weakened the foundation of some houses. Some are very weak to the extent that owners fear the buildings will give up any time. But following the construction of a sea defense wall by government, residents can now heave a sigh of relief even as the rain set in this year.
We are grateful to government for coming to our aid to construct the sea defense wall to solve the destruction caused by the tidal wave.
The assemblyman for the area, Emmanuel Boyo, who expressed gratitude to government for solving the issue, cautioned residents to desist from indiscriminate dumping of refuse and open defecation along the shore.
One main issue is that those along the coastal are using where the contractor is constructing the city as a refuse dump and where they defecate As at time, we don't have any toilet along the coastal area. Those ones that they're having is private ones. So we are now appealing to the government to support us with some of the place of convenience.
To the Volta region now, where officials of the Volta Regional Center for National Culture have proposed a public-private partnership to save the regional theatre complex from total collapse. The theatre complex project, which was abandoned in the year 2000, now requires an estimated 3.5 million cedis to be complete. A report by Peter Kwao Adato.
The Volta Regional Theatre Complex project began in the year 2000 to primarily house the Regional Center for National Culture to promote and preserve culture. It has offices, theatre, changing rooms, storage facilities and conference rooms, among others. However, construction work stalled with about 70% of work done. Officials of the Center for National Culture were then forced to relocate from the small space in the Regional Coordinating Council into the partially completed structure, which has no toilet. Officials depend on the Regional House of Chiefs or have to find their way back home in order to attend to nature's call. The Architectural and Engineering Services Limited in 2011 estimated a total of 2,243,478 cedis for the project completion, but no action was taken by the government, leaving the structure to deteriorate. An AC estimate in May this year put the completion figure at 3,529,666 cedis. The deplorable state of the facility does not only deprive the center of its core mandate, but is also affecting revenue generation as all activities are being held elsewhere.
Government should come to our aid. Then from there, you can be working vigorously. And then the society will feel the presence of the Center for National Culture. And then our heritage will be secured.
Elvis Predeployment is the head of marketing and sponsorship at the Region Center for National Culture.
The way the building is not complete, it is hindering some of us, our work. Let's say the marketing department, for instance, we're supposed to solicit for funds and other items for our programs. At least the people who will give you help will also look into it into the future, that when I give this thing out, what will I get in return? And mostly that is the question that they used to ask. You are going into an uncompleted building to have a program. What will I get for my company in return?
Part of the roof was ripped off, leading to severe leakage. Electricity cables are left hanging dangerously, among others. Officials want government to act now to save the strong edifice from total collapse.
Let's now look at a series of reports on the nature of our roads, and it is frustrating when commuters find it difficult to ply the road whenever it rains due to its bad nature. It becomes more frustrating when the only alternative route is closed from public use. Kukwa Mensah brings a report on the Klagon Road, which cuts off community from other areas whenever it rains. The Lashibi Klagon Road connects commuters to Klagon, Sakumono, Ashaman and Tema. The about 500-meter stretch of the road is untarred. It has been eroded by water, exposing ditches that gather water whenever it rains. With a bridge construction underway, the road has also become muddy and difficult to ply. Commuters have to meander their way on the stretch. The chief of Klagon, Ni Boteklan, laments how the situation has taken a toll on the mobility of both commercial and private vehicles.
It has been affecting my car ball joints, the tires, and then you have to be in a queue. Automatically, you consume fuel. With the help of the Member of Parliament, the Assembly has organized for a refilling of the road with stones for temporary use. But the Assemblyman for the Klagon electoral area, Mujib Kutia, explains the road has not been awarded for construction.
Engineers and planners, they packed off-site immediately after the elections. Apart from the contractors working on the bridge, who are presently at site, but the main road itself, the contractors are not at site.
More worrying is the fact that the one-way underbridge gets deeply flooded whenever it rains, preventing vehicles from using the underbridge to join the motorway. Commercial vehicles park for passengers to get down from the vehicles to cross and join the motorway on foot. Private vehicles, however, do not have any option than to park their vehicles and leave them behind. The only option during such times is an adjoining bypass which was serving as an alternate route to the motorway. Unfortunately, the route is said to have been closed by the authorities, who claimed commuters will avoid paying tolls at the nearby booth if they use the stretch.
If you hit this route, you're on the motorway. There's no other way alternative. You will have to go through the toll booth and pay the toll before you get back to Accra. So, that one is not true. I do not know what reason they have for locking this.
The Klagon situation has persisted for about 9 years. Presently, the Klagon community is cut off from the rest of its neighboring communities whenever it rains. Residents are pleading with authorities to reconstruct the road and open the bypass for use to prevent further devastation.
Well, a worrying situation there. This is still Midday Live. We take a breather here. Stay with us. We have more coming up after this. Thanks for staying with us. Shipping lines operating at the country's port bag $100 million annually as container demurrage charge from shippers. Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahinkra, described the charge as illegal.
An amount of $100 million are bagged annually by shipping lines operating at the country's port. This amount is paid by shippers for exceeding the 7 days free period of keeping the containers. A situation the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahinkra, considered as illegal, adding up to make the cost of doing business high.
Most shipping lines don't own their own containers. All the containers are leased. Last time I checked, it was $1.50 per day. But when the container gets to your hands here in Ghana, it costs us $30, $40 for 20-footer container per day as demurrage. Yes, it's tricky. People want to have their containers back quickly and ship them out. But you ask yourself, is that amount of money commensurate?
This concern the Deputy Minister and an international freight forwarder says government will force shipping lines to reduce the amount in Ghana. Members of the Institute of Chartered Ship Brokers, made up of shipping agents, brokers and managers, also met to deliberate on the issue.
When over 80% of liner cargo cannot be cleared from the ports within the allowable 7 days, then something has to be done. When shippers, fully aware of the consequences, still hold on to container after the allowable free time has long elapsed, something ought to be done really fast.
The international body is seeking to raise concerns of the inefficiencies in port operations.
The Transport Minister, Kweku Ofori-Asiama, has directed members of the newly constituted board of the Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, to support management to block revenue leakages in the operations of the authority. According to the sector minister, such malpractices is draining the coffers of the authority and offenders must be punished.
The sector minister was addressing the newly constituted board members of the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority, DVLA.
Of particular concern to the ministry, the issue of frequent boat accidents on the Volta Lake resulting in loss of lives. I entreat the board to pay particular attention to this area by strengthening enforcement of safety of boat operations on the lake.
The 13-member board was tasked to put in place a team of experts to drive the vision of the president and achieve results. Board chairman Frank Herbert Davis also promised to deliver. The transport minister also inaugurated a 12-member board of the Ghana Maritime Authority. The minister also entreated members to work assiduously to provide adequate regulations to govern the maritime industry. Board chairman of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Robert Kingsford-Kutin, called for total cooperation from stakeholders in the maritime industry.
30% of small businesses under the Adabraka Small Tax Office of the Ghana Revenue Authority filed their tax returns. This, according to the authority, is greatly affecting revenue mobilization.
Under the domestic tax law, all companies, including self-employed persons, are obligated to pay taxes on their profits in the year. The law again requires that every business and individuals must register and own a taxpayer identification number TIN to facilitate tax payment and other transactions. However, the Ghana Revenue Authority records show that the laws are not being complied with.
We are advising taxpayers that everybody should make it a point. People have the old ones, which is the 10 digits. They should go and renew and have the 11 digits. The 10 is necessary. As salaried workers, employers must ensure that their employees have registered, because when it comes to paying their PAYE to GRA, if they don't have the TIN, especially where we have automated the system, then it will become a problem to pay on behalf of the employee.
At the Adabraka Small Tax Office, for instance, only between 20 to 30% taxpayers filed their returns, making it difficult for the tax office to mobilize revenue.
Basically, the small taxpayers, they constitute the informal sector, and they have a challenge with record keeping in Ghana. We have identified it, we are working around it. We have set up a project that is working in collaboration with GIZ. We are coming out with a template for them so that they will start keeping records, so that there will be no issue of GRA assessing them more than they have to pay.
This, coupled with the implementation of the other amended tax laws, prompted the GRA to engage various stakeholder consultation and education across the country. GRA also disagreed that 30% flat rate will increase costs.
It is not double. You see, if you look at the mechanism, we are looking at the chain. An importer has imported, and he is a registered person for VAT. The law requires him to pay. When he pays, and then he is also selling, he is required to charge. So we are saying that retailers, wholesalers, importers are required to register, but of course you have to meet the threshold. Once you meet the threshold, then you will charge, but you charge at 3%.
The authority called on the public to meet their tax obligations in order to help the country meet its developmental goals. Meanwhile, the Ghana Revenue Authority says it will soon begin publishing the names of businesses and individuals who default on their tax obligations in the print media.
This is Midday Live with me, AC Benewanyami. Let's move on to other stories. And the Electricity Company of Ghana has announced new policy interventions to curb some critical challenges facing the company's operations in the Ashanti region. The company is rolling out an estimated $120 million financing sourced from donor partners and internally generated funds to expand network and provide reliable power supply to consumers.
The Ashanti region has, in the course of the year, experienced occasional power outages, particularly affecting customers in the Eastern Corridor. The new $120 million investment will help address operational inefficiencies, create new business and customer service centers, and install fiber optic and other technological systems on the network. At a media briefing in Kumasi, Managing Director of the company, Engineer Samuel Boachiapia, assured customers ACG will continue to provide reliable power supply and improve upon customer service delivery.
Ashanti region is now operating within ECG corporate structure as a semi-autonomous business unit with greater authority, responsibility, and accountability.
Boachiapia also spoke about plans to revenue protection activities to reduce commercial losses.
Assigning an officer as a special load tariff customer in Ashanti region to facilitate preparation of bills and prompt payment of bills.
The Deputy Minister of Energy, Urekwedo, reiterated the government's commitment to improve energy situation in the region.
The German embassy has supported the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center with €2 million towards the organization of 27 peacekeeping courses this year. The ambassador who disclosed this at the closing ceremony for a United Nations Africa Union police pre-deployment training in Accra further pledged his country's support for Ghana.
Successful peacekeeping across the world is always dependent on exemplary discipline by the contingent, including utmost respect and recognition for the laws, culture and customs of the host nation and other mission colleagues. In line with these core values, the Ghana Police Service is making sure its personnel are adequately prepared and conscientized for any mission.
It is therefore crucial that as ambassadors of the Ghana Police Service and Ghana, you adjust and adapt to mission environment when you are deployed. It is in line with this that the service is grateful to KAIPTC, the German Foreign Ministry, and other donors for supporting capacity building of our officers.
Ahead of a pending United Nations and African Union duties, 60 personnel participated in a 2-week pre-deployment training course. It was targeted at enhancing their capacity to deliver effectively at both operational and tactical levels in UN peacekeeping operations. The Inspector General of Police, David Asante-Apetu, called for more collaboration with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center.
We can further collaborate to explore other critical tactical areas of policing, including counter-terrorism, transnational organized crime, human trafficking, and proliferation of small arms. I am of the view that these collaborations will not only benefit the Ghana Police Service, but other police services of the ECOWAS region.
The police pre-deployment training was made possible by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, KPTEC, and the German Foreign Ministry.
It's so important because the center is contributing to peace and stability in the whole region of West Africa. If we are looking at what has happened in Mali recently, what has happened in Niger and Burkina Faso, what is happening in Nigeria, you will see that the fight against terrorism and fostering of stability and peace is of utmost importance for the whole region of West Africa. And I'm also proud to say that we see Ghana with its strong democratic credentials and with its economic success story as maybe one of the most important partners in this region of the world to radiate peace and stability in the region, and we are very grateful for that.
Course leader, Chief Superintendent Isaac Asante, expressed gratitude to the organizers and pledged to be worthy ambassadors for Ghana wherever they would find themselves in peacekeeping duties.
Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayoko-Botchwey says the ministry will not tolerate ineptitude and bad behavior from officers at its embassies. She regretted actions of officers at post at the various Ghana embassies have deterred Ghanaians in the diaspora from accessing their services.
The minister was responding to questions on the third day of the Diasporan Summit in Accra. She said the ministry is putting measures in place to ensure the embassies can respond swiftly to Ghanaians in the diaspora. In line with the current policies, officers at the various embassies will be retrained.
What we have decided to do, and it's still at the consideration stage, is to ensure that all our officers are retrained in customer service. Otherwise, we will continue to have these complaints, and these are very legitimate concerns.
She hinted the ministry and its partners will soon come out with a list of Ghanaians living abroad to ensure better coordination.
Take the UK, for instance. Most people in the UK are undocumented than those who are documented, and most of them do not want to be known officially because they have suspicions that maybe if there is a list of where they are in terms of their address and who they are would be to their disadvantage.
Otiko Afisa Jaba as Gender and Social Protection Minister.
Children hawking is an indicator that all is not well in Ghana and that we have a lot of work to do. It's still part of people abusing the law. There is a law in Ghana from the Children's Act 560 that a child of school-going age who is not in school, the parents commit an offense, or the carers. People do not know that there is a fine of 500 Ghana cedis or 1 year imprisonment or both. And we need to send that message out. We have a lot of policies to protect children, but the enforcement is lacking.
The Ghana Diaspora Homecoming Summit is a conference organized by government to establish relationships with the diasporan community. The summit aims to harness capital for development purposes by encouraging Ghanaians abroad to invest in Ghana.
Thierry Nyan is standing by to bring us all the action we need to know from the world of sports coming up in the next minutes. Stay with us.
It's now time for all the action that AC was talking about. I'm talking about the news from the world of sports with me, Thierry Nyan, here on Midday Live. Now, Manchester United record goal scorer Wayne Rooney has rejoined Everton on a free transfer 13 years after leaving the Merseyside club. England international Rooney played 559 times for the Red Devils, scoring 253 goals. He won 5 Premier League titles and each of the Champions League, Europa League and FA Cup once after joining from the Toffees for £27 million in 2004. Rooney began his career at the Goodison Park, scoring 17 goals in 77 games. His return comes as United look to sign Everton striker Romelu Lukaku with a £75 million deal for the Belgium international agreed between the two clubs. Everton manager Ronald Koeman began talking about Rooney's potential return as far back as October, stating he would be pleased to sign England's all-time leading scorer. Premier League, and the Busua Dwarves moved to 5th place on the league table after beating the Tema Harbour Boys by 2-1 at the Tema Sports Stadium. The Premier League top scorer Nicholas Jan increased his tally to 11 goals few minutes after Latif Adari blew the whistle to commence the game. Joseph Esso also got a second to bolster the dominance in the game. So to some of the other fixtures you should be expecting later today, Kumasi Asante Kotoko will come up against Mediama Sporting Club. The game between Ash Gold and Wafa has been postponed. Bichem United will face Hearts of Oak. Brecum Chelsea will come up against Inter Allies. Elmina Sharks will also try their hands on whether or not they can be able to beat, Boogie Boys, Boga All Stars. Great Olympics will also try to beat Wild Stars in an attempt to, escape some relegation battle they have been facing recently. Adriana Stars will also be in there against Liberty Professionals in a cracker of a game in Doma. Let's do some continental news, still with some Ghanaians. Ghanaian duo Solomon Asante and Daniel Nieje came from the dugout to inspire DR Congo Giants TP Mazembe to steal a 2-1 win over Horoya Athletic Club of Guinea at the Stade TP Mazembe. Gracia Kanda shot the home side ahead under 14 minutes, but Francis Mbele restored parity with 8 minutes to the break. Nieje came on to replace Tresom Mputu just 5 minutes into the second half. Solomon Asante also came from the dugout to replace Rainford Calabar in the 64th minute. The swift attacking Ghanaian winger provided an important assist for Nathan Silanka to power TP Mazembe into the quarterfinals of the Total CAF Confederations Cup with just 8 minutes to end proceedings. Straight to the ongoing Ghana's Strongest competition, and it was an afternoon filled with joy and excitement when the athletes of TV3's Ghana's Strongest reality show set the stage running for what was going to be a very fun and action-packed event. All from 6 athletes remaining in the competition. Hundreds of fans showed up to cheer their favorite athletes at the Medina Libya Cortes Park.
He goes down.
There were 3 events held on the day, which included a day-by-day dumbbell press Lua and the power stairs medley as the last challenge. It was a grueling day for most of the athletes, but had Damian Smith dominate most of the event, earning a total of 57 points. Ahmed Bouachi finished in 2nd place with 54 points. Godfrey Akobila and Mustafa Ahen tied on 3rd place with 50 points. A Week 9 event also saw Victor Ampofo and Lucius Moyang manage 32 and 28 points respectively, but escaped the axe of the commissioners. Week 10 of the event is scheduled for somewhere around your vicinity, so do watch out for that. And that's exactly where we bring an end to the sports bulletin. My name is Thierry, and I'll definitely catch you again, for News 360 edition of the sports news. Keep watching TV3 because AC Benoit has got some international news for you right now.
Thanks, Thierry, for the sports updates. Up next is international news.
A ceasefire brokered by the United States and Russia has come into force in southwestern Syria. It was announced after President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin met for the first time at G20 talks on Friday. The truce is also backed by Jordan. It is in force along a line agreed by Syrian government forces and rebels. About 300,000 people have been killed in Syria's conflict, which began with protests in 2011. Another 11 million have been forced from their homes. Russia and the United States have backed opposing sides, with Moscow supporting the Damascus government, while Washington has called for the removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The Iraqi army has been mopping up the last pockets of resistance from Islamic State militants in Mosul after a long battle to recapture the city. An official declaration of victory from the government is expected soon. Iraqi forces backed by the US-led airstrikes have tried to retake the city since October last year. IS seized Mosul in June 2014 before sweeping across much of Iraq's Sunni Arab heartland and proclaiming a caliphate straddling Iraq and Syria. But they have been losing ground over the last months as government forces advance on their former Iraqi stronghold. US President Donald Trump has declared the G20 summit in Germany a wonderful success despite his country's isolated position on climate change. In a joint statement, the leaders of 18 nations and the EU recognized the US decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. However, they also said other G20 members remained committed to the irreversible accord. Deadlock over the issue held up the last day of talks in Hamburg. A final agreement was eventually reached, and the joint summit statement was officially released on Saturday. The statement also said the US would seek to work closely with other countries to help them assess the use of fossil fuels more cleanly and efficiently.
And to entertainment news now. A week after TV3 explored how legendary comedian Super Odi is surviving after a sterling career, MP for Agona East, Queen Star Pokuya Sawyer has reached out to the veteran actor. Here is Obusuwarai's report.
The aging comedian Super Odi tussled to walk on his own. He relied on the support of his family to move around. Touched by TV3's report, the MP donated an electric wheelchair to the 82-year-old actor whose knees have grown weaker. The motorized wheelchair comes in handy for distances which would be fatiguing in the absence of a wheelchair. Groceries and an amount of 1,000 cedis were also presented to the family to support his upkeep. The legendary comedian was thankful for the support.
Eja otumfo kasi yankopon konkron asafu yehua ototrobonso obonsu gbaria ososo hin abodi in ewura nitumi namde here.
I've been able to bring the electric wheelchair, which is really, I'm sure, he's happy. So to put smiles on his face, at least for the rest of his life. I loved watching Super Odi because he would say something and he would put a smile on your face. And it's good for a human being to be laughing. It's healthy.
The MP for Agona East, Queen Star Pokria Soya, was grateful to TV3 for motivating the gesture.
I'll give the credit to God and then secondly to TV3 because I watched it on TV3 and honestly I was moved because I've known Super Odi and I've been watching him since I was young. So I went like, wow, what is happening?
She again pledged to send money at the end of every month to cater for his needs.
I believe that everything we inherit here is supposed to be spent here. When you are going, there's nothing you are going to do with your cars and your houses. So I believe that if I have now, to whom much is given, much is expected, I have to be able to put smiles on the faces of people like that.
Indeed, TV get results.
Indeed, TV get results, and that's all we have for you by way of news this afternoon. Thanks so much for your time. You're so grateful. My name is Asiedu-Dartey. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.